on, and there were so many great things to watch. They have a great back catalog of episodes. You can watch Space Ghost Coast to Coast episodes in full. You can watch The Brack Show, which I know many of you didn't like. Brack is one of my favorite characters of all time, even if that show was awful. You know, it pays homage to a lot of the shows that were on Adult Swim that I did like. And it also gives you some of the kind of newer stuff, like it gives promos to something like the Eric Andre Show. You know, what's the new one? Child Medicine, or I'm trying to remember the exact names. Their names are so ridiculous sometimes it's hard to keep up with them. In any case, and I think, by the way, some of those are really good. I watched the Eric Andre Show and I actually laughed out loud. I thought it was actually really very funny. So there are some great moments in those shows. The way that the show kind of gets hijacked and the way it's shot with these old cameras, it reminds me of something like Between Two Ferns with Zach Galifianakis. You should check that out if you ever have an opportunity. It's kind of shot in the same style, old cameras, kind of 80s style, although the one on the show, the Eric Andre Show, is more kind of late 70s, early 80s style. It looks like a public access, television show with horrible, screen editing and all kinds of things like that. It's just crazy. But in any case, you should check. That show is actually funny. And when I watched that, I went, man, maybe this hasn't. Maybe I asked the wrong question. Because I'm not sure that it has lost its mojo. I watched some of the newer episodes of Aqua Teen Hunger Force, or Aqua Teen something whatever, which I used to tape religiously. I used to have that on my DVR lined up. 7 episodes queued up, ready to rock whenever I wanted to watch them. And I just fell off the plan. As soon as I got a new DVR, I stopped. It never occurred to me to go back and start doing it again. But I'd say I watched some of the newer episodes, and they are hilarious. They're just as good as they've ever been. I'd say maybe even better than they used to be. So that's original content. It's better than they used to be. I literally had to pause it because I was laughing so hard at one of the episodes. That takes a lot from me, folks. I'm not that kind of a guy. So the fact that that's there, and I hate Squidbillies. Robot Chicken for me is hit or miss. Many of you said that many of the shows on there, Metalocalypse, hit or miss for me. A lot of shows up there are hit or miss. But I would say that that's the way it's always been. If you ever go look at something like J.D. Riznar, for example, is just the first thing that jumped in my head, when he did Channel 101, which was an internet TV channel whose idea was basically to create a new show every week, and as long as they had the viewership, they would keep going with a show until it didn't have the viewership, and then they'd bring in a new show. Adult Swim is really the kind of predecessor to that. Except now they're kind of on the backlash of that. So they were the first Channel 101. Then there's this Channel 101, and now they're kind of reacting to the internet and reacting to all those things that have happened out there with original programming. So I'm going to say that Adult Swim has actually not lost its mojo. I don't have nearly as much value that I used to have in it, but I got to tell you, I think it's got some very good content there. And if you're a DVR master like I am, where you'll go in and kind of set a minute early and a minute late here, and just to make sure you get the whole thing and whatever the case might be, and you kind of get in there with your DVR ninja, you can actually really enjoy Adult Swim. You're just probably not going to do the same thing you used to do, which is just turn it on, start playing a game, and just have it on in the background and just be laughing at it, right? You're just not going to be doing that. So it's not the same anymore. But it's still got its mojo, and I'm going to go ahead and go out there on a limb and say that I think it does have its mojo. I'm not sure that it's ever been the greatest epicenter of original programming in the country. No, it hasn't. Clearly, it hasn't. But I think it does have value, and it's still funny and still exciting for me, even if I don't like most of the stuff that they put on there. So there you go. You guys surprised me. You guys got me doing some stuff. You guys got me looking up some things that I didn't expect and came up with an answer I didn't expect to give. Because when I was thinking of this question, the first thing I thought of was absolutely. It's lost its mojo. It's not fun. I watch the ads for it now and I go, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But you see, minds can change here on the Weekly Wringer. That's what it's all about. We love to be able to talk about things that are important to you. And that maybe help to change some minds out there. That's very important. All right. So let's get on to the question for next week. Now, this is one I've been thinking about for a while. Now, I have just recently kind of come into a little bit more free time. So but both my Xboxes blew up. That'll be another question for another time. So, my 360s, I should say. My original Xbox is running just splendidly. It's running like a machine, a well-oiled machine. In any case, so I haven't been able to do kind of the gaming stuff that I wanted to do. I've had to kind of go back to the PC, Diablo, Heroes 6 of Might and Magic, you know, all this kind of stuff. But I was thinking about Diablo 3 in a kind of grander context a few months ago when it launched. And I thought about it in this way. Several of you probably were at the forefront of this, and many of you, if not all of you, know about the controversy that surrounded Diablo 3 the day and then the kind of weeks that followed after it was launched. And the reason why was not really the game itself, although there were issues with the game. The problem was really with the infrastructure and with the load testing ability that Blizzard had gone through. There were many, many problems. People that bought the game that couldn't actually get on to play it. You know, people that continuously found the servers completely jammed and incapable of supporting them. As things went on, there were more and more failures that went through in the Diablo 3 launch. Go look them up if you want to take a look at them. In any case, some of the problems that plagued Diablo 3 would crush a much lesser game. Diablo 3 was so highly anticipated that I think people were willing to sit back and say, okay, well, you know, they'll get it sorted out. It's Blizzard. They'll figure it out. I'm gonna buy the game. Even if I can't get in right now, I'm gonna hold it out, and then eventually it'll come together, which it did. But I think it would have crushed a much lesser game. And in thinking about that, it made me think of a question that I want to ask you guys for next week, and it has to do with coming off of Diablo 3, but also coming off of the internet age in gaming. Be in that mindset as you're thinking about this. So coming off of all of that, my question for next week is this. How do developers know in the internet age that a game is actually complete? Because I think we get into a slippery slope with something like Diablo. Now, Diablo happens to be a game that is well funded, and it is well, you know, it's got a tremendous backing, and the people that are working on the project know it inside and out and have a lot of technical skills. So their ability to go and fix these problems after a game has been released is awesome. But just look at 38 Studios, right? Try to get your support with that right now, right? So the point is, if you go and you create something that, you know, is not quite ready for public consumption, I think the internet has always allowed us to be in the world where we can say, well, we'll just patch it. We'll just patch it day one. 10, 15 years ago, that was unheard of. 20 years ago, you would never, ever, ever see that. I'm not saying it didn't happen, because it happened every once in a while, but you'd never, you got a cartridge and it was done. That was the way that game was going to exist in perpetuity for the rest of its time in cultural significance. It would be on that cartridge that way, no alterations whatsoever. Nowadays, we'll patch it. Day one, we'll fix it. What do you guys think about that? How do developers ever really know in this age that a game is completed? That's the question for next week. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Thank you, as always, for commenting on the Weekly Ringer. I am the Commodore from the Clan of the Grey Wolf, and there is no reset button.